Bonjour. In this lesson, we're going to look at very important irregular verbs. Then we're going to look at the near future and something called the recent past. These irregular verbs are extremely important because they are used so often in French. We'll start with these first two. The verb aller, which means to go, and the verb avoir, which means to have. Je vais, tu vas, il va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. J'ai, with a J apostrophe because it's followed by a vowel. Tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. I think you can get an idea why you have to learn these verbs so carefully, because some of the forms are so close to each other that if you don't learn them well enough, you may confuse one form of a verb for the form of another verb. Look at these and you'll see what I mean. Être and faire. Être. Je suis, tu es, elle est, I switch from il est to elle est in this case. Nous sommes, vous êtes, elles sont. Remember we had the verb to have, they have, ils ont. Yeah? With an S it becomes the form for to be. Faire. Je fais, tu fais, il fait, nous faisons, vous faites, ils font. There's a lot of problems with these verbs in a way. Huh? First of all, although this is spelled the same way as this form, fait, this is pronounced here, fe, faisons. And the other thing that you notice also here is that the ending is an es, where just like être here, you also have an es ending. These are two of the three verbs, the other one being dire, which means to say, that do not have an easy ending in the vous form in the present tense. Font, sont, remember the other two verbs we just saw? There was they have, ils ont, and then there was also they go, ils vont, ils vont, ils ont, ils sont, ils font. Those are very, very close. So you need to learn these conjugations very carefully and very well. Here's another verb. Verb venir, which means to come. Now this one is irregular because see the stem changes to another form. Je viens, tu viens, il vient, nous venons, vous venez, ils viennent. Okay? So this is irregular because you have two different stems. But again, you know, endings that are pretty regular. All right, I have only put one form from these verbs just to show you an important point. When it comes to a G or a C sound, you need to go back to your pronunciation guide if you want, and you'll see that for the G and the C in French, there's two different sounds. There's a soft G sound with an E or an I, J, and there's a hard G sound with an A, an O, or a U, G. Same thing with a C. A soft C sound with an E or an I, S, and a hard sound with an A, an O, or a U, K. All right. If in the infinitive you have a combination which is a soft sound, in the case G followed by an E, J, or a soft C sound, C followed by an E, this sound should be kept throughout the conjugation. Well, if I take the stem of manger and I add ONS, I'm going to go from a soft G sound to a hard G followed by a O sound. I can't do that. That's why there's a special E that's been introduced here to preserve the J sound of the infinitive. And this is pronounced mangeons. By the same token, when it comes to a CE, as in lancer, here it means to throw. In the new form, I'm sorry, I've added a cedia here. And this cedia's function is to tell me that I must pronounce the C as a soft S sound instead of a hard K sound, which I should do because it's followed by an O. So this cedia tells me pronounce it as if you had an E also in there. Lançons. Mangeons, lançons. All right. Now let's go to something called the near future. Now near future is the combination of two things. The conjugation of the verb aller, to go, in the present tense, the conjugation that we just saw, plus the infinitive of a verb. For instance, here's an example. Ils vont manger. They are going to eat. See, it's the same construction as in English. Ils ne vont pas finir. they are not going to finish. And you notice that the negation goes around the conjugated verb. Just to make sure that you understand what the near future is, just think that this is time going by. This is the distant future. This is the present time as I'm speaking to you. The near future indicates something that will happen maybe in 5 minutes, in half an hour, in a day, maybe a week. So I'm using the near future to express things, actions that are going to happen in a future that is not too distant from now. Right? And now we're looking at something called the recent past. Now, recent past is formed with the combination of the verb venir, which we just saw also, plus a preposition de, which may become the apostrophe, depending on whether the infinitive that follows begins with a vowel, a mute H, or a consonant. All right? Venir is obviously in the present tense, and here is an example. Tu viens de parler, which means you have just spoken, or you just spoke. Okay? Il vient d'étudier. Here I have a D apostrophe because it's followed by a vowel. He just studied. He has just studied. Okay? So this is to express the recent past. And just to make sure again that you understand what I mean by recent past, this is again time going by. This is the future. Here is the present tense. Recent past is something that you just did a few minutes ago. Okay? For instance, you just ate. That would be the recent past. And in order to express this again, you use the present tense of venir plus de plus the infinitive. And do make sure that you include de in this construction.